What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of House Dads podcast. We have yet another riveting guest for you, putting all the pressure on him. Man, I realized I wasn't even talking to the mic, so hopefully that picked up. We have Joel Diabin here. He is a friend of mine. He was a client at one time, but now he's just a friend, you know? So he has an incredible story. He's a man of faith. He's in ministry. I'm not gonna share all of his stuff. That's what he's here for. But he's just a good guy. I look up to him as a husband, look up to him as a leader, as a dad. He's just all in at whatever he does. And for the first time, we have a guest.
Yes.
Brandon doesn't know.
Rhett's got home field advantage.
Okay.
He's
Nice.
used to me introducing, and I'm excited to now be, meeting you for the first
Well, I
time
hope
and
I don't
learning
let
this
you
story.
down. It's
I hope
kind of
you don't
your
either.
inaugural
Okay.
guest, you know.
No, we've at least had some kind of mutual connection, and we do have a little bit of
Yes,
mutual
we
connection.
do.
Running some similar circles. Like I said, when I saw you, I'm like, I met you before.
Yeah, I'm
We've
sure.
crossed paths at some point, and I've heard good things about you from people that have come out of our ministry and served with you and things like that. So glad to have you, man.
Yeah, thank y'all for having me.
We're
Looking forward to
pumped about it. I think ultimately our wives are probably our connection.
Yeah.
Because
That's
how a
typically
lot
how
of
it
it-
works
yeah,
out, right?
the wives
Yeah.
kind of
Love
dictate
it.
who we hang out
Yeah.
with and whatnot. But yeah, man, we're excited to have you on and hear your story. Get into a little bit about another adventure you've gone on with music.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're pumped to have you, man.
Yeah, and this is why it works so well is Rhett knows probably most of what you're about to say, but I don't.
Yeah.
And the audience doesn't as well. So
Hey, story
kinda-
time.
Yeah, take it from the start. Like first time you met your mom. No, like just
Met your mom.
but just no, really, like just tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about
of
coming
course.
up, what led you to where you are today, family, ministry, all that stuff.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Lived here my whole life. Go Tigers.
Amen.
Oh, yeah.
Through and through. Two older brothers, so I'm the baby of the family. Love it. And I went to the Dunham School
Gotcha.
from pre-K all the way on.
The Dunham
So,
difference.
Yeah, the Dunham difference. And so we love Dunham. My wife actually still works there.
Cool.
Our kids go there, and I actually met my wife at Dunham.
Wow.
So high school sweethearts. Whoop whoop.
That's cool.
Yes.
And then we graduated in 2010, and from there we went on to LSU. We both went into mass comm. I'll say I did it first, and then she knew where I was
Followed.
going,
Yeah.
and she's like, "Well, I got to keep him close,
Yeah,
you know."
yeah,
So
right.
she followed me into the mass comm world. I pursued. They have some divisions within there. I pursued journalism, and she pursued PR. And so, growing up, I always loved sports.
Yeah.
Big LSU guy, and so. Unfortunately, I was not given the abilities to play them as well as I wish I could have.
Hey man, I got you.
And so I figured, hey, if I can't play them, why not like write about them, talk
it.
about them?
Yeah, that's
so
cool.
I kind of wanted to go into sports media,
Yeah.
and so that's what led me into journalism. And so, which LSU had a great mass comm school, and so. How did the unathletic sports enthusiast, inspiring journalist end up in ministry?
Yeah.
Because that's where I am. And so that's a great question. I grew up in just a household where faith was very important.
Yeah.
My parents, from a young age, they taught us the importance and value of the Bible and prayer, and so we went to church. I grew up at the chapel on the campus, and all the while I had an older brother who loved music.
Yeah.
And so I grew up hearing him, play drums and play the guitar, and basically anything that you could play, he was playing it. And so kind of because of both of those things, I was very quickly drawn into worship and worship ministry. And so that carried right into college. As I said, I grew up at the chapel. And so as I stepped into college, I quickly became a part of their Refuge College ministry.
Right.
And was helping with the worship on Sunday nights and stuff. And so I was blessed to have really three key leaders in worship, just influences in my life growing up. Ken Drake, Evan Godbold, Drew Kearney, just to name some of them. And they really taught me what worship was, and how worship is so much more than music. Worship is a posture of our hearts. Worship is an overflow of the joy that we have because of what Christ has done for us. And the worship that happens on a Sunday morning and a Wednesday night should really just be a fraction of our worship.
Right.
It should really just be the starting place, because we should be worshiping, all the time. And so they really taught me that. And it was while I was at Refuge that I was kind of called up from a few different leaders and challenged, and I really started to feel that call into ministry. And I started to really rethink things. And I still love sports. I still, I'm all things LSU.
Talking about the game right before this.
Right.
Yeah.
Still athletic.
But right. But it was in that time frame that I really started to feel that calling into to worship. And so, and since then, I've really seen just God's faithfulness throughout and His assurance throughout, which has just led me to know that this is where God has me and where I am today. And so,
what's the age difference of your brothers? You and your siblings?
So my oldest brother Josh, he's 7 years older, and then Matthew's 4.
4 years older.
But Joshua was the music one.
Got it.
So he was the one I was always looking up to, and he's been playing music as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
So whether it was pots and pans or drum set, it kind of got me going early.
Were y'all pretty close
We
growing
were.
up, or like close as in hated each other, enjoyed each other's
we
presence?
were as good as it could be as brothers. And it's really cool because Josh was the more music mind and Matthew was more sports.
Oh,
and so, and I feel like I kind of am a little bit of both,
yeah.
right? Like I love the sports side of things, and then I love the music side of things. And so I feel like with both of my brothers, I was influenced and I looked up to them both for different things, which was cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If you ever see a picture of his dad, really his whole family, I think they have some sort of gene where they all just look alike.
Really?
His dad is him
That's
with a
what we
mustache.
hear.
The genes are strong, huh?
That's what we hear.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And you can see it.
hopefully
Yeah.
it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing. You're
a good thing.
you're a great looking guy.
I need to get the stash going again.
You do,
I
'cause
did
you-
it at one point. Ashley wasn't a huge fan.
I've learned wives really aren't fans of the stash.
Yeah.
But
I can see that.
you gotta do what you gotta do.
Sometimes you do. You got to
Yeah.
keep them on their toes.
Yeah. So you mentioned kind of, starting off in worship and music, and I know you've recently had not a job change, but still doing similar things. But you were somewhere for a while, and years, which I know that can be under great leadership and can be kind of bittersweet to maybe leave. But tell us a little bit about the transition, what led to you going that route.
Yeah.
Was it a tough one? Was it an easy one?
It was tough. Bittersweet is the perfect word for it. That was probably one of the hardest decisions Ash and I have had to make in our marriage. And so I had been at Redeemer Baptist Church. It's not far from here, off of Millerville in Baton Rouge. I'd been there for almost 9 years, and we love Redeemer. I loved working at Redeemer. Preston Thompson, the pastor, he's just a great guy. As far as the whole pastor, boss, friend relationship that we had, it couldn't have been better.
Right.
We still keep in touch. We still, he's a big LSU guy, so we'll still talk all things sports. But we loved Redeemer. Our kids loved Redeemer. It was just a very, very sweet church. And so Ash and I will have been married 10 years this October.
Nice.
And for almost 9 of those years, we were at Redeemer Baptist Church.
Yeah.
And so, as you can imagine, while at Redeemer, we grew a ton. We got to experience new life. All of our kids were born while we were at Redeemer.
Yeah.
We got to, we went through a lot of hardships while we were at Redeemer, a couple floods, the loss of Ashley's brother, the NICU stuff. And so where we saw the church just be the church, just stand up and support us and truly walk with us through all of that. And so Redeemer will always have a special place in our hearts. But to go back a little bit, 3 years ago, the chapel approached me and said, hey, we're looking for someone to help us out on Sunday nights with Refuge. We know you used to be super involved at Refuge. Would you be interested in coming back?
Right.
Which initially I was just like, heck yeah. I love Refuge. This would be awesome. And so I told him yes, and we ended up doing it. It was kind of I was still full-time at Redeemer, but then Sunday nights I would go over and lead the worship. And just instantly getting back involved, it kind of reignited that, that first love. I was like, oh man, this is so fun.
Yeah.
It's just seeing all that God's been doing on the campus of LSU. It's just been super encouraging.
Yeah.
And so did that for 2 years. And then this past, I guess it was August or September, they approached me and said, hey, listen, things are going really well. God's been super faithful with this ministry, seen a lot of growth. And basically the college pastor, Andrew Riley, he said, I need some help. I need some help with this ministry.
Yeah.
And, we'd love to be just to see if you'd be interested in stepping on in a full-time capacity. And so, through lots of prayer and just long conversations, Ash and I really felt peace. This was the next step, even though it was super bittersweet.
Yeah.
And so I've been there for about 3 months now as the associate college director.
Yeah.
So I still handle all things with worship. So
Yeah.
I lead the worship on Sunday nights. We have an awesome team of primarily students. We try and keep it fairly student-led. And it's just been a joy to serve with them. And then I kind of help Andrew with leading the ministry. We also have a resident staff of kind of either students or fresh out of college kids that are interested in going into ministry.
Cool.
And we kind of help them get their feet wet in ministry. And I'm going to be taking over that and really trying to develop and
awesome.
pour into them and train them. And so
Yeah.
it's been a really, really cool process.
Yeah, that's neat. Well, I'm sure the transition, obviously with the bittersweet part of being connected to true family
Oh, of course.
into a new place was difficult.
It
But
was.
logistically too, what's that look like for you now? I think sometimes, and we were talking about before, part-time youth pastor here and stuff like that, people don't really understand what all goes into the day-to-day. It's
Right.
like, okay, well, he's playing in worship. How's that take all week?
Right.
Or what's that
For
look
sure.
like in the day-to-day?
For sure.
So tell us a little bit about the day-to-day
Yeah.
life, being dad, being husband,
Right.
being over a ministry leader and things like that.
Right. And for sure. So when I was at Redeemer, I wore a lot of hats. It was a
Yeah.
smaller church. And so I was the worship and student pastor. So with that, I was doing the Sunday morning worship. I was doing the midweek youth stuff, as well as, cleaning out the bathrooms when they
Yes.
needed cleaning.
Yeah.
And you know how it goes in the ministry
Yes.
world.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the cool things about stepping on with Refuge is it is a little more focused.
Yeah.
I'm with the college ministry. Now within that, I'm wearing a couple hats, but it's a focused ministry. But one of the things I love about just ministry in general is the relational aspect
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of meeting with students, pouring into students. Specifically with my worship team, just helping develop and train, and just be that example for them and really just walk through life with
Yeah.
them. Now with that can have its pros and its cons. Especially in college ministry, my phone will be blowing up at
bet.
9, 10, 11 o'clock.
Don't understand. the family
Right.
dynamics.
They don't
Yeah.
understand the dynamic of
Yeah.
having kids. And,
Yeah.
or I'll try and reach people at 8 or 9 a.m. and won't hear back from them until, 1 p.m.
I hear that. Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I definitely have to try and focus on being intentional. Like, hey, when I get home, like I'm home, like I need to try and set the phone aside. It's not always easy,
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with people who are walking through certain things and you want to be available.
Yep.
But there are times where, like ministry, like your first ministry is your family.
Yeah.
And so, that's another great aspect of it. Both when I was at Redeemer and since I've been at the chapel, they both value family.
Yeah.
And so one of the cool things is the flexibility that comes with that,
Yeah.
and being able to, on a Wednesday at 9 a.m. if my daughter's got a chapel service that she's performing in, they're like, yeah, go ahead, go see
Right.
her and
Right.
support her. And so I
Right.
get to be there for Charlotte and
Right.
being able to be present with my kids, which
Yeah.
is super awesome opportunity. And
huge.
or when Ashley's like, hey, I've got my hands full at work, like, are you able to get the kids today? And I'm able to be like, yeah, I can help out. So
Right.
so that's definitely one of the awesome aspects of it
Yeah.
as well.
It's good. It's good. Yeah.
I can attest to that because when I asked him if he wanted to be on the show, he was like, "Oh, I think there's a party or a graduation thing or something with
That's
the kids,
true.
and I don't know if I'm picking him up or she's picking him up. I think I'm picking him up." And then you're able to be
Yeah.
flexible and work it out.
She was pumped. She's like, what? You're going to party? Yeah, like,
Yes.
do it.
We'll
this
make it
is
work.
awesome. She's
Yeah.
like, we'll make it work.
Yeah.
Love
that's
it.
great.
So on that dynamic of family, share a little bit about, you kind of gave us a little spiel of how you met Ashley, but anything else you may want, maybe a proposal story?
Yeah, well, I'm interested. The timelines that you're saying about years and things like that too line up pretty similar to me and my wife's story.
Okay.
We'll celebrate 10 years in August.
Let's go.
And we both graduated in 2010, or I graduated in 2010. She graduated in 2009.
Okay.
So we all got kind of
Yeah.
graduated, married around the same time. But tell us a little bit, being high school sweethearts,
Yeah.
when'd you
So
seal the
we,
deal? Things
we
like
met.
that.
We met. I guess it was early junior year of high school. She had moved to Baton Rouge recently from Michigan.
Wow.
Oh,
And so,
I didn't know that.
right, yeah. So she grew up
she's
in Kansas
in
City, then moved to Michigan, then came to Baton Rouge. And so I always thought I'd end up with a Southern girl, and that did not
opposite.
happen. The opposite.
right.
And so we met at a youth group, you know, right? As all good love stories start. We met at a youth group, and from what she tells me, she remembers the story, is that someone introduced her to me because I was going to Dunham. She was going to end up going to Dunham. They're like, hey, you need to know this guy. And I was like neck deep in a ping pong game and like kind of totally
serious stuff.
Yeah,
going on.
kind of totally was like, okay, cool, yeah. And then kept playing my game. And so, you know, good on me. So we met then, started dating near the end of junior year.
Okay.
And then, went to college, dated all throughout college. And then I proposed junior year of college. Senior year of college.
Okay.
In November. And then we got married the following October.
Yeah.
So long engagement. Wouldn't recommend, but you know.
Ours was a year.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Ours was right at, I think, 13 months.
6 months is probably
11,
what I'd
12
recommend.
months.
Yeah.
So, you know, you make it work.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, we got married that October.
Did she start working at Dunham immediately? Or
She
did
did
some
not.
other
No,
things?
she worked a couple jobs
Yeah.
before then. And then she's been at Dunham for, I believe, a little over 5 years now.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
maybe going on 6.
Yeah.
So
And so when did kids come in the picture and things like that?
kids came into the picture. Charlotte, she is 5 and like some change.
Come
So she'll
on.
be 6 in August.
Yeah.
And so she's a kindergartner at Dunham. She's excited to go
Wow.
to be in first grade, which
Yeah.
just blows my mind.
That's
just
wild.
absolutely crazy to
Yes.
have a first grader.
Yeah.
And then our boys, they are a little over 2 years old.
Come on.
And so, and they go to, Dunham has a little nursery program for the teachers and staff.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
she's able to, so every morning she loads all the kids up and
Let's
she's
go.
a super
Roll
mom,
together.
drives them to school, does the work thing,
Yeah.
picks them up, drives home. So
Yeah.
she's,
So boys, 2 years old.
Yep.
We talked a little bit about this, but so they're the same age, which means they're twins.
Yep.
Right.
They are twins. That's what-
we just had our third.
okay.
And the transition from 1 to 2 was intense.
Right.
The transition from 2 to 3 is next level.
Right.
What was it like?
You
Man.
skipped it, man.
From
Yeah,
1
we
to
skipped-
What's it
3,
like going from
man.
1 to 3?
We're still trying to figure it out.
That's
You know,
it.
we,
That's the
uh,
answer. Yeah.
No, it is, man. It is crazy and hard, but just as hard as it is fun.
Yeah,
you
man.
know, it's like every day you never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
I remember when we were, you know, at the ultrasound and. Which, you know,
That's wild.
Yeah,
the
this
tech
is-
was just way too nonchalant. You know, just like, she's like, here's baby 1, or she goes, here's baby A, you know, here's baby B. And we were like, baby what? She's like, oh, like, yeah, you know, it's twins.
That's wild.
And I mean, you know, instantly,
Yo.
you know, I'm like, okay, like, is it a girl or is it both girls? Because then
Sure.
it's 2 more weddings. And so I get up, I start
Calculator
pacing.
guide. That's what I was
You know,
thinking
yeah,
about.
I'm like pacing the floor. Ashley just starts crying.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, wait, I got to tend to her. So I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, we got this. Like, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
So
Dude,
just
that's
kind of all the
crazy.
emotions of excitement and then fear and then just like joy. And then just, it was all
Yeah.
encompassing.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it would have been better if someone sat you down and said, "Hey, just want to like more, I guess,
Prepare you.
intentional thing,"
Yeah.
or do you
Right.
think like just getting it thrown at you
I
was?
maybe just ripping off the Band-Aid is
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
need, you
Yeah.
know? But
Yeah.
I almost feel like if they sit you down, then you're like, wait, what's wrong?
What's wrong? Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and so she ripped the Band-Aid off and, you know, and it's crazy, you know, like that. And I mean, y'all know, having, you know, 2-3 kids, that witching hour of, you know, 4 till 7 on any night is just, you never
Yes.
know what you're going to get.
That's
you know?
exactly right.
So you've
Yeah.
got kids
Oh,
hanging from
man.
ceiling fans, you
Dude.
know,
I
always
especially
love-
with 2 terrible 2s.
Oh,
It's
man.
just, and
Yeah.
they kind of encourage one
Oh, I
another.
bet.
and,
Yeah.
So
I feel
It's-
bad, but I do like
intense.
hearing other parents' struggles.
He's
Yeah.
really
That
glad
are-
to hear your.
that are
You're
the
like, okay, I'm
same.
doing all right.
That witching hour is a
Dude,
thing,
it
man.
is.
From
is.
bedtime or like from early before dinner to bedtime is like I feel bad sometimes. I'm like, man, I'm just ready for them to go to bed.
Right.
I feel guilty because I gotta enjoy
Right.
it, but I'm also like, this ain't really enjoyable.
Dude,
you know?
I can get home from work at 4:30 or so, and from 4:30 to 5:30, I'm like, it's been a day.
Yes.
Like it's been
Yes. It's
has
been
it
1
been
hour.
24 hours?
It's
And then
been
I'll
a
look,
day.
I'm like, is it 7 yet? And I'm like, oh, 5:30.
But I can't. I mean, I can't complain, obviously. But like, Brandy's been with them all day,
Right.
so
Yes.
I'm like, I can't exactly just say,
Gotta
well,
kinda
this is
suck it up.
hard because
Yep.
I'll get
Same.
Yeah,
Right,
it
is
is.
it?
Yeah. I get the same feeling. I come home and you know, you don't strategically think these things through or plan it out. That we brought home our newborn and sweetest, most beautiful blessing, my baby girl, and I got 2 boys. She's just been like kind of colicky and more difficult in things. And so, you know, she needs a lot of attention. And so we bring her home And in the middle of it, my oldest, my 5-year-old Max, has soccer season and baseball season. And then my youngest just started baseball season as well. And it's like, yeah, we weren't probably thinking while we were trying for a third that this would land as newborn and 3 seasons all at the same time. But it's just like you said. I mean, it's crazy, but the most beautiful thing all at the same time.
And that, I mean, that's how I feel about just parenting in general. I think it is the hardest yet most rewarding thing that you can do. Just being able to pour into a child like that and raise them up. And don't get me wrong, it's hard, but it's just so awesome.
It's hard to explain when you don't have kids, or like, you know, explaining it to someone who doesn't have kids, like it's the best and the hardest thing. Like, it sounds pretty miserable. When you have kids, you're like, it makes sense. You know?
But I think it's important that you say that it's almost reassuring to hear that, hey, like we all share that struggle, because I think from the outside looking in, for a lot of dads, especially, they kind of detach because they feel like they fall short. And so because they're inadequate, or we all get to that point late in the afternoon where your brain is just fried. And so many people detach because they feel like they're falling short. But man, the only way that we fall short is not if we mess up, it's that if we stop trying.
For sure.
And so I'm glad that we're sharing openly, like, hey, we all get it, man, but you just can't give up.
That's why you
just got to keep trying
and surround yourself with people that will encourage you and you know, push you towards that.
That's it.
It helps have people of the same age kids too, just to kind of talk with and not compare, but like, okay, we're going through the same thing. And it helps. So to get into a little more, I guess, heavy stuff, we know, or I know your story of your NICU stays, right? I know that's a big part of your story and kind of what your next adventure is and whatnot. But and it's when I was typing this, thinking of a question, I'm like, well, what do I even ask about that? You know? So because I want to be sensitive to it, but at the same time, like, you know, whatever your heart wants to share. But your experience of, I know, first went through the NICU and then having to go through it again, it can be like, was it the same experience? Was it, hey, we learned a lot over here, so this is a little different? But just, I guess, share the story in general for others. And maybe what you got from it, encouragement to others, or even just being vulnerable about it. Whatever.
And I'll start by saying, you know, throughout everything we went through, we were amazingly blessed throughout the process. In the way that, like I've already kind of shared a little bit, our church showed up, our friends showed up, and we know that there are families that just have extremely difficult pregnancies or trying to get pregnant, you know, whether it be infertility, and people that even have, you know, more drastic NICU stays than us, or, you know, miscarriages and stillbirth. And so I want to preface it with, we are extremely blessed and thankful for the provision we saw that God pulled us through. But I will go in. I'll start with Charlotte. Charlotte was born 6 weeks early.
Wow.
And our boys were born 8 weeks early. And so Charlotte was in the NICU for 31 days, and then Micah was in the NICU for 44 days, and then Andrew was 51.
Wow.
55 actually. And so, so we walked through with all of our kids. For Charlotte, you know, Ashley went to the hospital early. She was leaking, and you know, we get there and the doctors are like, hey, like, just a heads up, your kids are Charlotte will probably be in the NICU for a little bit. And at this point, we knew nothing about the NICU. You know, up into this point in my life, I didn't really know anything about the NICU. I didn't really have friends that had been through it. And so it was such a foreign concept. So we're like, okay, like, she's 6 weeks early. She'll probably be, you know, really tiny and cute and, you know, get some preemie clothes and,
good to go.
You know, maybe she'll go in there for a little bit and then, you know, we'll be on our way. And so fast forward to delivery, she was born, everything seemed great. We got to spend, you know, a few minutes with her, and then they took her and, you know, brought her to another room and started, you know, testing things and hooking her up to cables and this and that. And so just right off the bat, you know, like for Ashley, she didn't get that, you know, the skin to skin bonding moment that most moms get.
That's rough.
So, you know, so they took her away, and that's when they kind of sent us back to our room, and which, you know, you get your 48 hours, you know, and your clock starts ticking right when you get in there, you know. And so, so we were in the room and just alone, which is not fun. And then, you know, a nurse comes in and they bring you a picture and they're like, here's Charlotte. And,
oh, wow.
You know, like, this is, you know, they put her in a little outfit and they're like, she's doing great. Like, you know, give us some updates. But obviously a picture is not
not
the
her.
same thing,
Yeah.
right?
Wow. Yeah.
And so, and it sounds silly, but I remember the nurse was like, she had her first poop, and, we changed her diaper, and, she kept going. Then when she left the room, I just started crying.
Yeah.
And she's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, I wanted to change her first poo.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's so like silly,
man,
to
no.
look back on it, but I was just like crying. And I'm like, I guess this is what being a dad is. We cry now.
You would have never thought you were crying.
That's
about
right.
that.
Right, and
Yeah.
so I was like, I wanted to change her poo, like it stinks. And
Yeah.
so we were in that room for 48 hours. We got to, we get to visit. She was down the hall in the NICU, and so we could obviously, visit, but all the while Ashley's recovering,
Yeah.
and so you've got to kind of be sensitive to that. But yeah, after 48 hours, like our time was up. So that was the horrible moment where we had to pack our bags and get all the baby stuff, load the car, and leave.
Wow.
And so
Yeah.
Charlotte was not ready to go home, obviously.
Yeah.
And so, but they didn't have a room for us. So we loaded up the car and drove home to an empty house with an empty nursery, and basically just were, pretty defeated.
Yeah.
And so that started our for her 31-day journey in the NICU. Now, one thing that after being able to process all of it, which has really just been a cool experience, is one thing I would say we both, but me specifically, is just really pressed into God the Father. His character is God the Father. For us, like we had to leave Charlotte at the NICU, and that was a very pretty hopeless experience,
Yeah.
where we just felt like there was nothing we could do, which was super difficult. And so, I think to the love that God has for us, motivated by love, he let his son Jesus die on the cross for us. And I'm like, we're all dads. When our
Yeah.
kids hurt, we hurt,
Yeah.
right? We want to go help them. We'll do
Yeah.
anything to help our kids. When our kids, need help, we always want to be right there. But God, motivated by love, sat back while Jesus died on the cross for our sins. And I'm like, man, can't imagine that kind of love,
Yeah.
you know? And so it definitely reshaped the way I view God the Father, which has been really cool for me as a dad,
Yeah.
to just think about that love and try and press into that and to love my kids that way. And so that was the start of her journey. And I'll go into the boys now a little bit, because I'll talk a little bit about their journey, which is similar to Charlotte's.
Yeah.
So the twins, we knew it was different from Charlotte, right? We thought everything was normal with Charlotte until it wasn't.
Sure.
Until Ashley had to go in early. And so with the twins, though, right, when we found out it was twins, they're like, hey, there's a good chance
Kind of
y'all are
expect that.
probably going to be in the NICU. And that's not to say all twins are, but Ashley had already she'd already gone into labor early, and they're like, there's a good chance this will happen.
Right.
So, we're like, okay, I get that. Well, we've already gone through this, so hopefully we can kind of mentally prepare. But what was interesting is with our first journey, it was almost difficult because we didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
Yet with the second journey, it was almost more difficult because we knew
You were
what to
prepared for it.
expect.
Yes.
Right. It was
Yeah.
this weird dynamic
Yeah.
where there were things that we were like, okay, we could prepare for this, but then we were like, wait, but we also know how much this stinks.
Yeah.
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 And so it was a weird dynamic of balancing, hey, we've done this before, so we should be ready for it, but also hey, we've done this before and we know how hard
that
it is.
impending expectation
Right.
of what it's to come. Yeah.
And I know for Ashley, it was hard on her because she almost carried a guilt that she shouldn't have, because she's like, well, what's wrong with me? Why can't I keep
Yeah.
my kids
Yeah,
in
it's
long
tough.
enough?
Yeah.
And so so it was hard. It was difficult in a totally different way.
Yeah.
The NICU can be a very kind of one step forward, one step back process.
Right.
You'll have tiny wins, but then with that, a loss will come.
Yeah.
And specifically for really all three of our kids, they had 4 main goals when in the NICU, which was being able to regulate their breathing, maintain their body temperature, gain weight, and then feed, be able to feed on their own. And so, but what happens is you'll often see that when they're trying to do each goal, as they start doing good at one will start to fall back. And so an easy example for all of our kids, early on, since they were born so young, their lungs weren't fully developed, so they'd have to get some breathing treatments and oxygen support. And then they were also in what's called an isolate, which is the way I call it is like a little baby oven.
Right.
So because they're born so small that they don't have enough body fat to hold their temperature, and so they'll easily get cold. So basically, when they're cold, the little oven warms them up a little bit.
Yeah.
And if they get too warm, it'll cool down a little bit.
Yeah.
So basically, until they can get to a point where they've got enough meat on their bones and they can regulate their own body temperature, they have to stay in what's called an isolate. But what will happen is as they're eating and as they're breathing and doing the treatments and stuff, they'll start to wean them off the oxygen treatment so they can breathe on their own. Well, then they spend so much energy breathing on their own that they start to struggle holding their body temperature because they're focusing on that,
Right.
And even we'll see it once you get rid of the breathing treatments and all that, and you move towards like feeding. You'll notice a very similar thing where they'll start spending all their energy feeding that they can't hold their body temperature, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Like they'll be trying to hold their body temperature and they struggle with eating, and then they're like, well, hey, they need to put on some more weight, so we need to up their bottles. And I'm like, well, wait, they still can't finish the 40 mil. Do we need to go up to 50? And they're like, well, they're getting a little thin. We got to beef them up. So it's almost this never-ending cycle where it's
tough.
like, as one thing, you'll start to see some progress. You might see the other just naturally fall down a little bit. Which was tough. It's tough as a parent because, and we're their number one fans.
Yeah,
so
for
we're
sure.
sitting there like cheering them on, like you can do this,
Right.
like you can drink that bottle,
Yeah.
But for them, and that's what was so hard about it. It's like we can see they're working so hard, especially when you're feeding them, and you can just see them as they get tired, and they're like, "Hey, I'm done. Like, I'm tired. I want to take my nap." But we're sitting here like, "No, you have to drink." You have to finish this so we can get you home.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's hard to balance that of like, man, we want you to go home, but also like we know you're working
best
so
for you.
hard,
Yeah.
right? And what's best for you.
Yeah.
And so it was definitely tough, throughout the whole thing, which was really a blessing, is we had to learn from an early point that our kids aren't ours.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
they're God's, and He has blessed us with them, and we are so thankful for that. But ultimately, like, they're His, and it's just our job to like raise them and take care of them and point them towards Christ. But yeah, ultimately they're His, and it's which can be a difficult concept to grasp, and still learning it. But from an early age, we had to realize like, hey, like they're not ours, like they're His.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's powerful, man. I think it's so often we hear a lot of different testimonies, like, and we should about traumatic births or successful births, and hey, you get to go home, or you hear about the absolute worst case scenario and miscarriages and stillbirths and all those things. But that in between in the NICU,
Right.
I honestly haven't heard that perspective.
Yeah.
and really being able to hear that. So I'm glad you shared that. What was it like with the boys, bringing one home early and then one, like, that's got to be.
So really, that whole process was tough, because with Charlotte, like when she was born, she was our everything.
Yeah.
Like she was all we had. Like I said, I worked at Redeemer at the time, and Preston was just super flexible. He's like, hey man, you need to be there for your wife and your kid.
Yeah.
And so, I still did my Sunday responsibilities, my Wednesday night stuff, but he was like, don't worry about coming to the office. Like, you can work from the hospital, like be there for your family.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. And very similar with the boys. It was another similar, just like, hey, be there for your family. Now, the tricky thing with the boys was we had Charlotte.
Yeah.
With Charlotte, we could she was our everything.
Yeah.
With the boys, we've got Charlotte. And at the time, we were at the tail end of the COVID stuff.
Gotcha.
So,
Oh, gosh.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
Charlotte couldn't go to the hospital, which still to this day I don't understand.
Yeah.
But she couldn't go to the hospital, and so she didn't get to meet the boys till they came home.
Wow.
Which is another weird thing for her, because it's like we're telling her she's got brothers, and she's like, "Cool, where are they?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, they're at the hospital," and she's like, "Well, why?"
Doesn't
Like,
make sense.
yeah, bring them home.
Yeah.
And so, like, working through all that, like, we wanted to bring her, we couldn't bring her. And it was a really weird time because you have one at home, like, a lot of times, Ash and I were divided.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to the hospital, she stays with Charlotte, or vice versa, which was difficult. And given the COVID restrictions, we couldn't have guests at the hospital. So when you're at the hospital, you're just alone.
Yeah.
And so it was a really like isolating, pretty lonely experience.
Yeah.
Just walking through that. And I know things have gotten better. And I mean, honestly, I think it was like a month after we got out with the boys that they loosened up on the
Lifted,
restrictions
yeah.
and people were able to go. So we just caught that, that perfect storm. But it was difficult trying to balance being home with the one that you have at home
Yeah.
that you can love and care for. But then having to go and be there for the one that is fighting, and you want to be there to support them. And
Right.
they say that like for kids that are in the NICU and the parents are there and supportive, like they typically see them come home
it's crazy.
quicker.
Wow. Yeah.
And so, we're wanting to do that, but it was a fine line you have to walk. And it was similar, when we got Micah home is when Charlotte or Ashley pretty much had to stay home. Because
Right.
at that point, she's like taking care and doing all the feeding. So then it was kind of like me and Andrew like holding down the hospital,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it was a difficult season. There was a lot of just kind of being on, I don't want to say different pages, but just not being able to connect as much.
Yeah.
And Ash and I thrive on connection, and feel like we try and really prioritize that. And being in such a season where we're disconnected was
Yeah.
difficult.
It's tough.
But there wasn't much else to do.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
kind of the
it.
hand we were dealt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough.
I think something that a lot of people don't really talk about or think about from a male perspective, a husband, a dad, we, as a leader of the house, we have to be there for our spouses. We have to be there for our kids, but we often don't take care of ourselves too, and we have to be filled up in order to do that.
Right.
So whether it's going through something like the NICU or just everyday life where there's, the witching hour, right?
Right.
What do you feel like you do, or are you still working on it to like allow yourself to be the leader, feel confident to lead your wife, to lead your kids, but not do it from a empty standpoint?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Definitely like surrounding yourself with like wise men that are going to support you and lift you up and encourage you. I know like when we were walking through the NICU stuff, for me, it was like Preston, which I've already kind of said. He was that perfect just boss, pastor, friend relationship. And there were days I'd come to him, I'm like, hey man, like I'm pretty broken and I'm pretty upset and I'm struggling with some doubts, and just, can you help me? And he was always there to listen, which is important. He would always listen first, and then speak into me and share scripture. So surrounding yourself with just men who are going to lift you up and support you, so that you can do that for your family, do that for your wife, and continuing. And like when you're going through it, man, like press into the Lord. And like I think He wants us to do that. Like you see in the Psalms when David cries out, and like God wants us to cry out to Him, to press into Him, and to come to Him with our burdens. So being able to do that, to take care of yourself, and then every now and then, like just do some things where you need to recharge, whether it's going to run or going to work out, and just trying to do things to take care of yourself so that you can take care of your family.
Yeah.
Huge.
And a
be
lot of
that.
people need to hear that, because I mean, speaking personally, if I'm going through something, sometimes I feel like, all right, it doesn't matter. I gotta be there for the wife, be there for the kids, but you still got to deal with your stuff, like going through the NICU through that. Like y'all are both going through it, but at the same time, you got to be the leader, So it's a tug and pull of,
Right.
I'm sure, of like, just what do I do, and
sure.
just not knowing how to handle it.
For sure. And I'm a fixer by nature, and then that's probably just a guy thing in general.
Yeah.
I love like when Ashley's got some things going on. I'm like, all right, like let's
what
go.
we
Like
do.
tell me
Yeah.
what I can fix. I'm
How
like,
we
here's the
gonna
game plan.
Yeah.
But like, and this was really the first thing that's like I just couldn't fix.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing I can do to bring my kids home from the hospital. So it's just, I had to realize like, hey, like now's the time. I can't fix it. So I got to figure out something else. And for me, that was like learning to listen better, learning to be there for her. I grew up with three brothers, or two brothers, one of three. And so we weren't the most emotional bunch,
Right.
we just kind of
Sure.
like rub some dirt on it and keep going. So really pressing into like what it looks like to lead and to love and to nurture, which was a totally new thing for me. Because I'm like, hey, let's fix it. Like, let's get a game plan. But when you can't fix it, you got to figure out something else. And so that looked like listening and leading and loving. And so it was good. And it really taught me more about what it looks like to be a father.
Yeah.
Because those are elements you have to bring into being a father.
Yeah. It's good. It's good.
Well, you have obviously gone through like tough times like that, but another reason I wanted to invite you on is because you use your artistic creativity vision to come up with a song.
Yeah.
Right? So share with us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I started writing music around COVID. it's kind of when I pressed more into it. I've always done music. I grew up a drummer primarily, but then kind of got put into some worship leading opportunities, which obviously played into me feeling called into ministry. But I'd never really written music.
Yeah.
I just kind of always played it. And so COVID happened and everyone was baking bread, and I was like, well, hey, I'll write some songs. You know, I'm not gonna
make some sourdough.
I'm not gonna make a sourdough. So I was like, why don't I start writing some music?
That's
and
awesome.
so naturally, I kind of started writing some songs, and the themes of a lot of my songs were just kind of home life. You know, everything from my kids to Ashley and I to parenting to hardships we've been through. It was kind of just where I was feeling led to write. And so Come Home was inspired and written while the boys were in the NICU. And so, and having walked through it with Charlotte, I was able to, you know, see some of the things that I'd already gone through. And so I kind of had this direction that I knew I wanted to go with the song. And the interesting thing about Come Home is it's obviously written from the perspective of me wanting, you know, longing for my kids to come home.
Right.
But I wanted to write it in a way that's hopeful, write it in a way that kind of emphasizes the hope. And because I'd already walked through this with Charlotte, like I did have hope.
Yeah.
I knew the process was long and it was daunting. You know, for Charlotte it was 31 days. For the boys it was 40 and 50. But I knew there was an end in sight. And so I wanted it to feel hopeful. And because, you know, as much as this is part of Ash and I's story, like this is chapter 1 of their story.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, which was a really cool way to think about it. And so this is their first adventure. You know, this is their first obstacle that they're going to overcome.
Yeah, that's cool.
And looking back on it, I can't wait to share with them, like, hey, like this is what you did, and you were strong, and you did overcome. You know, and just call that identity into them.
Yeah.
You know, and because it's just really cool to see that. And so I wanted it. I wanted it to be hopeful. I wanted it to just be a song of hope, like, hey, I'm longing for you to come home and I'm trusting that you will, kind of thing. And so that's why the song, like, if you've heard it, it's got kind of a bouncy, upbeat vibe to it. You know, and I'll take a minute to give a plug. One of my favorite drummers, his name's Aaron Sterling. I reached out to him and he was willing to help me out with the project.
That's cool.
And he really captured the vision I wanted for it just so perfectly and really, really carried it out. And so, yeah, I wanted it to have that vibe of hope. You'll even notice at the end of the song, there's kind of a lyric change from come on home, don't be long, to come on home, it won't be long.
Yeah.
Just knowing that, hey, it's not going to be much longer. Right,
Yeah,
it's
I love
progressing.
that.
I know that we're moving
cool.
forward.
Yeah.
And it was because I'd had that experience with Charlotte. I'd walked through it and I knew, hey, there is a finish line,
Yeah.
you know, and sometimes it seems like it's a moving target,
Yeah.
but we're going to get there eventually. And so, you know, and I capture kind of that element I was talking about earlier, that, you know, that one step forward, one step back that you walk through. And then I say, you know, holding both is what you have to hold, which on paper is kind of like holding both of the twins, you know, but I was going for like a double meaning there with the holding both the emotion of grief and sorrow that you're processing with the emotion of hope that you have
That's good.
in knowing that, hey, like they will come home at some point. And so, yeah, it was a really cool process. I wrote the song, like I said, you know, 2 years ago, probably at this point, and I released it last month. And so there was obviously a time gap
Sure.
where, you know, I just sat on the song for a while, and then one day I went to Ashley. I was like, hey, I kind of have a passion project I'm thinking about. Like, what do you think? And she was like, you should totally do it. Like,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Like,
Yeah.
put it out. And so yeah, it's really cool because I do think while it's written from the perspective of me as a father, like longing for my kids to come home, I think it is relatable from the stance that we've all been in situations
Yeah.
in life where there is someone that we're longing for that nearness with.
Yeah.
We're longing for them to come home or to connect with. And so I think it's something that we can all relate to in some form or fashion because we've all been in those scenarios.
100%. When I listened to it before, and you know, I knew about your experience and why you wrote it, but I could see areas of my life, seasons before, and stuff I'm going through right now where it still applies to.
Right.
So yeah, it's beautiful, man. It transcends a lot.
And that's the cool thing about songwriting and music in general. It's just it's the universal language. You know, people can connect in different ways, and people can take certain things and just really connect with it on a way that you wouldn't even realize, which is just really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Well, we're going to figure out a way to link it to
Yeah,
have
we
it
may
as a
play
part
it
of
at
the
the
episode
end,
and all that stuff.
or link it. We'll link it. We'll also don't tune out. We may play it at the end of the episode, so you can sync up to it.
Yeah.
And if it helps to like hear someone's vision for it, right?
Yeah,
Rather than just
exactly.
listening,
Right.
Nobody would have picked up on a lot of the maybe subtle changes. So
Right.
it helps that there's a meaning to it. And if it means anything, I put the song. It's on Spotify or through Instagram. I put it on the background of a closing photo.
Come
I
on,
did.
let's
Tony
go.
Real Estate.
And
Come on home.
Yes,
home,
let's go.
And Instagram gave me a notification that said, "Hey, your post is performing better than others.
Hey,
you should
let's
do
go,
more
dude.
like it." So
Teamwork makes the dream
That's
work.
awesome, man.
Love it.
That's cool. That's really cool.
There you go.
Yeah, well, look, I left Rhett hanging with that last question because I was supposed to be asking you that one. So I will take his. I looked at him and we paused, and Rhett's like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to
I'll
ask
go
this.
for it.
So, but when we start to land the plane here, is there any advice that you'd give? And you've already given so much, man. I think it's encouraging for me, man, thinking about bringing home 3 kids with Emma. She is stretched us thin, and it's encouragement just to refocus and just remember some of the things you're saying. It's just encouraging me. But is there anything you'd like to share that would, somebody going through a tough time with their children or just in their marriage and things like that, some encouragement, some hope that you'd want to share with them?
For one, like stay unified with your partner.
It's huge.
I think Satan would love to have a field day when you get isolated. And so just when you're going through trials, when you're going through hardships, truly cling to your partner, pray for one another, encourage one another, support one another, just anything you can to lift one another up because, and you kind of hit on this earlier, like sometimes you're both walking through it, and that's an easy time to turn on one another. And that's what Satan would love, but truly see those as opportunities to cling to one another and just press into that because ultimately it will make you stronger.
Yes.
And then remembering that, trials are temporary, but God's faithfulness lasts forever. And I think that's something we really had to cling to. Someone told me at one point, like if you look at your life as like this grid, and right here you're walking through that trial, and when you're in it, that's all you can see.
Yeah.
You see that little trial, but if you take that step back and look at the full picture, like you see, like, hey, God was faithful here and here and here and here and here, all the way through, and just remembering His faithfulness.
That's good.
I think about Matthew's account of Jesus walking on the water, and when He called Peter out and Peter was walking, and it wasn't until he saw the wind and he saw the waves that he began to sink. But I love what happens next is when Jesus immediately reaches out His hand and picks him up.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy for us when we're in the trials to see the wind and see the waves and feel like we're beginning to sink. But just remembering to look towards Jesus because He will reach out and He'll pick you up. And,
That's good.
He will find you where you are, but He won't leave you there.
Yeah.
He will pull you out from it. And I think that's just something, and it's easier said than done, because when you're in the middle of it, it's hard. But to really press into God's faithfulness and remembering that, like, when you're in the midst of the storm, like look towards the one that holds it, because it can be hard.
Yeah.
And so yeah, really just pressing into God's faithfulness as you walk through those trials. And then lastly, look for opportunities to bless others. As I've mentioned a couple times, like while we walked through various different things, whether it was, our house flooded a couple times, Ashley losing her brother, walking through the NICU experience, just time and time again, people showed us the love of God, and we got to see the church be the church. Some people we hardly knew reached out to us and just loved us. And so just being able to bless others and through that, now we're on the other side of it looking for those same opportunities to bless others. And,
Right.
and it's so cool. Like I said, when Charlotte was born, I knew nothing about the NICU.
Yeah.
I just didn't know a thing about it. Since we've walked through this, I can't tell you the amount of interactions we've had with people that have walked through the similar thing, or that we've been able to walk with them through it and say, hey, we know this stinks, and we see you here, and we know you're on Facebook watching your best friends bring their babies home, and you don't get to, and we know how hard that can be.
Yeah.
And so being able to, which it's really cool to see God use our story, to be a witness and to love people and care for people. And so look for those opportunities because we all go through different trials. We all go through different hardships. And God will use those, ultimately for his glory, but he will use those as ways for you to then, take what you learned and be a blessing and be a light for others. So it's been really cool to be on both sides of that,
Right.
to be on the end where we've seen the church be the church, but also have opportunities where we too can say, hey, God showed us this through our story. Like, let us help you.
Yeah, it's huge, man.
Yeah.
It's great perspective. It's good.
Incredible, man.
Yeah,
got
I'm
anything
thinking
else?
rapid fire. Mike, do we go heavy? Do we go funny?
I'm going a little lighter.
Going light.
Do you have one? You want me to go?
You go first, and then I'll set it up
Okay,
for
yeah.
me.
So you just shared your heart. So we're gonna lighten the
Okay.
load a little bit.
Yeah.
Getting off on a lighter note, but rapid fire question, and it doesn't have to be a rapid fire answer, but I got this while I was listening.
Yeah.
You have a desire or a interest in sports. You have an interest in music. If you could choose one to be a professional in, professional
I
musician
love
or
that.
a professional
That's
athlete,
a great question.
which would you choose? And I may have a follow-up question after that.
That's a tough question. It really is.
Dude.
So
Chasing the money or you chasing the no?
So-
either
I mean,
one
you
you're
get
gonna
paid either way.
I have an answer, and it's close. I think the answer would be to be a professional drummer for some form of
That's my second
worship.
question up. Okay.
Somewhere in the worship realm.
Yeah.
I love music in general, and I've done both secular stuff. I've done worship stuff. There's just a totally different just joy that comes from worship. Just it's such an uplifting experience. And so, as much as I love leading worship, and I do it for a living, I love drumming.
Yeah.
And so, I love opportunities when I get to drum. And so, I think I've told Ashley this before. I think my dream job would be to be a drummer for just an awesome worship
Yeah,
band.
I love
That's
that.
just
Yeah.
doing the
Nice.
full thing. And then a close second, very close, would be to be on the PGA Tour.
Okay.
Oh,
so there we go.
Well, that was my
Okay.
second question.
I
If it
love-
was
what
sports,
sport?
what sport? If it was
would-
music,
would-
what instrument?
I mean,
So-
to take, I feel like to take care of my body, it would be PGA Tour. You're not, you don't have to get beat up all
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
And so
Long-
Unless you're
longevity.
Scotty Scheffler cutting a line.
I mean,
yeah.
you know?
yeah, very close
Maybe we
today.
should go there. Yeah, exactly.
So good question though.
Did I buy you time?
Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking a bunch of different routes, but I'm just going to go here because we talked a little bit about it before. The Office or Parks and Rec?
The Office.
Okay,
And
easy.
it's a very quick answer.
Yeah.
And so I think Michael Scott is a better character than Leslie Knope.
Yeah, I agree.
And so that's where it hinges on because the lead man is the best. Now I think when it comes to supporting characters, there's very strong casts on both sides.
Yeah.
You've got Ron Swanson who you
Next
can't beat
level.
it.
Yeah.
With Andy, and so there's some strong over there, and then you've got the Jim and Dwight thing, and so I feel like the supporting characters can kind of wash out, but when it comes to a lead role, you can't beat Michael Scott.
I think that's a really solid assessment.
And so that's where I fall on it. I've heard someone say, and I'll be interested to. I'm going to turn it on y'all and hear y'all's answers, which I'll ask y'all first. What is y'all's answer?
I'm Office.
Okay.
I'm Parks and Rec.
See,
Okay.
that's why I
so
knew
I have
that.
a follow-up question. Which one did you watch first?
The Office.
Okay.
Same.
Okay.
Yep.
And
I've
here's
heard,
my
I've heard
reason.
someone say whichever one you watch
Watch
first
first.
you like the most.
Yeah.
But you're a
My reasoning is yes, I do think Michael Scott is a better lead. However, if I'm going as a whole, because I do not like The Office after Michael left.
Okay.
I don't like I just don't like the direction
but
it
you
went.
can't compare it because Leslie never really leaves.
Well, I'm saying as a whole,
Right.
Parks and Rec from season 1 to season 8, because
Right.
The Office, you got to admit, you got to say, you got to get kind of past season
Right.
1 and you got to get
Right.
It's an
It
acquired-
finds its
See, but
Yeah.
I felt the same way about Parks and Rec.
really.
It took me a little while.
Parks
to
and
warm
Rec to
up.
me was start
Just-
to finish
No,
was
like
strong.
Leslie,
Right
it took
into the
me-
pit.
Yeah.
It took me a while for me to get comfortable
Okay.
with Leslie or like
Yeah.
Leslie.
Okay.
But anyway,
Yeah.
I mean,
That's how I
Leslie's
reason.
fine. She's no Michael.
Yeah,
Sure.
she's no Michael.
Yeah.
But I do see your point in that once Michael steps off,
It was just tough.
takes a hit.
Yeah.
It's still funny. Don't get me
sure.
wrong, but it was not the same.
It takes
sure.
a hit. They went experimental with the Will Ferrell thing.
Multiple.
And,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Will Ferrell. Dwight got
So-
a little whims. I don't know. His role turned more serious.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Either way, great discussion.
Yeah.
Right.
And I can tell you put some thought into this. I like
So-
it.
He's a big Office guy. So
Big Office
good.
guy.
when we closed his house, his closing gift, he got me a closing gift.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was a Dundee.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
Just he
The
does done
best
these for his
realtor.
awards.
Yeah, I do those. Yeah.
You still have it in the office?
Yeah,
Let's go.
absolutely.
Let's go.
Yeah, he can't say no. He
So,
probably
It is in the office. Shut
love
up.
it.
right.
Love it, man.
We'll see.
Oh man, that was awesome.
Dude, thank you.
Yeah,
It's
thank y'all for having me. I
fantastic.
appreciate
some
it.
really great stuff, man.
Appreciate
Great
you being on.
perspectives. Yeah.
I think your story is an encouragement to others.
Yeah.
Again, don't tune out. Stay because we're gonna play the song.
Yeah.
So you listen to the song and go give them a follow, a
Stream
shout
it,
out.
Spotify, all that, right?
Let's go.
Put it in
yeah.
your background songs
It
on
gives
Instagram.
us like I think like 0.3 cents or something. So,
Yeah, so you
nice.
should be retiring
so
soon.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
hey, everything goes into the kids' college
Yes,
fund.
sir.
So
Helps
just
in the kids'
stream it on
college.
repeat.
Let's do it.
No, man, but we really appreciate your time
Yes.
coming out here, sharing your story. We'll give you a plug on social, and so people can follow you and follow
Yeah.
your journey with your kids and
Yeah.
seeing them and all that kind of stuff. But thanks for watching. Give us a follow. Give Joel a follow, and we can't wait to see you next episode.
See ya.
Peace.
Two little words and one man's dream. I'm thinking about the day today. It seems so long, so long. Coming in early, staying late. You're working so hard, but miss my day. Come home, come home. So come on home, come on home. Come home. So come on home, come on home. Don't be long. Others will come and some will go. No matter what's said, I hope you know you're strong, so strong. So familiar, know this fight. I just want you home at night. Come home, come home. So come on home, come on home, come home. So come on home, come on home. Don't be long. One step forward, one step back. Holding both is what I have to hold, to hold. Time together is time apart. 24 hours divides my heart. Come home, come home. So come on home, come on home, come home. You're coming home.